I've paid attention to a lot of your content, and and for one, if you haven't, you need to go follow this guy online, and you're putting a lot of your deal stories out and things that you're doing, which I think are really really cool. But one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the show too was like you are taking a completely different strategy to a lot of what's out there. So for those that don't know you, just kind of tell us who you are and what you do.
Okay. Logan Fullmer, 44 years old, married, father of four. I'm here in San Antonio, Texas. Got an office of 25 folks. We do curative title and distressed property acquisition. That's the heart of our business. Now I've got an industrial portfolio and land development and all that stuff, but like our generator, where the cash came from, the oldest business, like the nucleus of this whole thing is distressed acquisition. And about 12 years ago, I was wrapping up a career in the oil field. I didn't know that I was wrapping the career up yet. But I've been saving and started buying some vacant lots downtown San Antonio, and the value was low. It hadn't gone up yet. But I got lucky, and this was in the, I don't know, 2009 and 10, 12 range, and the economy was still pretty weak, but it was slowly starting to recover. Well, I was working in the oil field, kind of finding my way through my late 20s, early 30s, and I wanted a little bit more than what I had, so I started trying to figure out how to real estate invest. And house flipping, I'd flipped a couple houses. It was hard. It's just a lot of work, and you got a lot of risk, and stuff can go wrong. And I remember thinking, let me just keep working, and I'm going to buy this land. Lots downtown were worth $5,000 to $10,000. There's a single family. I'm in seventh largest city in the state. Single family lot. You can build one or two houses on it. Utilities, a road, just across the highway from downtown. I thought, this has got to be worth something one day, dude. This is the best bet so far of my life. I bought a couple dozen lots with all my savings, and within about 18 months, I started getting offers. I paid $5,000 to $10,000 a pop. My first offer was for $189,000. It was pure luck. I did go all in like an idiot, kind of in a way.
Wow.
But I got so lucky. It paid off. So I sold that one, and basically recapitalized for most of the investment on all of them. And now I got all this land for nearly free. A couple $100,000 in my bank account, and I get laid off from the oil field. I'm like, uh-oh. I'm at this like fork in the road that guys like you and I all come to at one point. So I didn't go back to the oil field, went to real estate.
Sure.
The interesting part is I was just buying land and speculating, got very lucky. So I realized I was onto something and went back to the east side and said, let me get some more of these lots. I'm knocking on doors again. There's not much in the way of YouTube or podcasts or like help. I'm just knocking with contracts, trying to get deals. And no one would sell me their stuff for $5,000 or $10,000 anymore. Everyone knew the market had changed. Right about that time, I went to go sell a property.
Yep.
And this old guy was like, he was just a pain. He was like, I'm not going to the title company. I'm not doing this and that. And I'm like, fine, I'll come to your house with a deed. And I'd bought property with title insurance all the time, and nothing was ever wrong. Well, I go to this guy's house, buy his deed for $5,000, record it. When I go to sell that thing a year later, I bought 1/9. Now I know why the guy didn't want to go to the title company. Anyway, I go through the summer process.
Right.
So that summer, I go through this process of calling attorneys, asking them what to do, learning how to buy each person's interest, dealing with judgments and liens. And I couldn't get title insurance on this, but I aggregate all the interest, and I'm giving people $500 or $1,000 for their share because I didn't think it was worth any more, and they guess didn't either. When it was all done, I had a couple of judgments and liens to deal with, but I'm still in it for like $25,000. I go sell it for $125,000. And when that happened, like, there was nothing else that made sense after that except that. Everybody in the real estate space was telling me about the returns on mortgage notes on mobile homes, house flipping, wholesaling. And every time someone would tell me a story in my mind, I would keep my mouth closed. I'm just like, yeah, dude, no way. That's how this whole thing got started. And after that, I thought I'll just do that for the rest of my life.
You kind of highlighted it, but like kind of what is your opinion of like what is distress acquisition? Like how do you define it, and like how do you find it?
Basically, you're buying property that can't go through title insurance, and property owners are unwilling to fix incomplete or unapplied for probates. I call them like abandoned estates, things like that. You've got missing owners. You've got judgments and liens against owners. You have feuding owners. You have breaks in the title chain, no affidavit of heirships, all those things. The deals that when you're getting ready to wholesale, you have to terminate the deal and you can't close it because of things like that. That's what I want. So my deals are the ones that everybody else cancels. Like, I'm rummaging through your trash can for deals.
That's remarkable. So like how in the hell do you make that work? Like what do you because a title company and attorney a lot of times going to tell you you can't do shit with that. You're dead in the water. Like how do you turn that
Right.
into essentially a deal that you can make work?
So that's all they said. Every time I'd bring this to some attorneys, I'd say, you can't do this. They had every reason why I couldn't. And in the beginning, I believed them because you look up to attorneys when you're young, broke, hard worker, and they're this professional. But over time, I got irritated and started reading online about the property code, the estates code, the tax code. Those are the three, and the probate code. Those are the four sets of laws that really affect this kind of real estate the most. And I started trying to find solutions, and I started to find them little by little. But the difference is I was willing to pay the cash, and it's not big cash, $500 here, $2,000 here, immaterial almost. The attorneys weren't looking at the risk. They were just looking at, is it going to work or not? I'm looking at, well, it's very low risk because I'm giving this guy $500 for a deed, and I'm buying it subject to the tax debt. And then I go sell the dang thing and pay the taxes off at closing when I sell it. Like, I'd literally be in a $150,000 deal for $5 or $10,000. And the attorneys kept telling me it won't work, and I went and did it. And I had to find attorneys that were willing to listen and do it my way. So I had to go through about 30 of them. Now I have 3 that work here in my office. They do it my way. But the shocking part is finding them. We literally spend no money on leads because there's not really good programs to do this. So we use the appraisal district to search for certain terms and titles. We use the land records to look for lawsuits and judgments. We'll look at certain foreclosures. And then we'll go into the dockets and look for different pleadings against multiple owners, things like that. So you got to get decent with land records, but you can't buy good data like this. You have to go get it. You have to go find it.
Got it. And so if you wouldn't mind, give us 1 or 2 examples of like, and you could even tell us your wildest one of, hey, this was 900 fucking heirs, there was a cemetery on the property, whatever it is. I'm just interested in give us one that was, maybe a home run financially, but it was just an absolute pain in the ass to go through.
As you say all of these, I'm like, there's that one, there's that one, there's that one. I have a 65 heir deal that I made $1 million on a $250,000 spend. I bought 30 acres with a family graveyard on it this last summer and did another one 5 years ago. I'm probably I'm plaintiff in probably about 50 lawsuits with curative title and dispute resolution efforts to clear up these things. That's what that looks like, but I don't know if you can quite see this. Can you see that? So that's a screen clipping for my CRM.
Yeah, I can, yeah.
We just sold this property for $640,944 last week. Our total spend with paying delinquent taxes, small remaining mortgage, and owners, we had to pay each of them, and a little bit of legal. We paid $186,000 to them. So our net profit was $454,000 in 60 days.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, I'm cautious about saying those because I don't want people to think every deal makes $500,000. It doesn't. But I'm going to give you another cool one, and then I'm going to give you a typical one. We did another one last month. God, this is a complicated one. Holy cow. The man had been in bankruptcy for 12 years. I don't know how he kept it going. He had development companies from New York to California to Texas. The county was unable to foreclose on his delinquent taxes. He had $490,000 or $500,000 in delinquent taxes on an industrial lot that was assessed at $250,000. So when you look at that, you think it's upside down. I've got an industrial portfolio. I know what land is like. We started to kind of size up the value a little bit and thought, hold on, there's equity here. So we called the old man, and his lawyer said, look, I'll take $25,000 for his position and you can have it. He thought he was dealing with suckers because of all the problems they've had for so long. So we contracted with him for $25,000, $2,000 down. So he did an installment sale where we agreed to pay him the remaining $23,000 in not less than 6 months. $2,000 out of pocket. We bought it. We worked with the title insurance company because there's all these mistakes in their bankruptcy. There were trustees involved. It was a wreck. We worked all these curative efforts, cost us $10,000 in legal fees. And then we ended up selling it to the neighbor for $1 million instead of going to the market at 1.3, 1.5 because it could take 6 months to a year to sell. We didn't even know if we'd get our money, paid $150,000 in broker fees. So we sold it to the neighbor for $1 million. We paid the taxes off at closing. My cash out of pocket was $2,000. And then I had legal bills that came in the next month of maybe $10,000. Our net was about $450,000 in 18 days on that deal.
Wow. That's crazy. And how'd you find that one?
So in that one specifically, there were bankruptcies attached to it, and then there was a delinquent tax account that was significant. Those are both free leads in the land records. You got to spend a weekend to learn how to use a docket search and deed searches. There you go.
Yeah. So one of the things you said, and I've heard you talk about this online, like, how do you figure this shit out with the title, right? Because like that is the biggest wall a lot of times when you find a title issue and the attorneys are like, we ain't gonna settle this shit.
Everything can be settled. There is always a solve. At the end of the day, you have to figure out, is the juice worth the squeeze? So you've got to be able to allocate a budget to each of these problems or solutions. And that's why you have to start with a massive margin, because, well, I've done deals that have made me $1 million, $2 million on like insignificant spends. Like that's happened more times than I can count. But there have also been times where I've spent 50 grand and done the deal and broke even and made $0. Now that's not common. I've probably done that 20 times over thousands of deals, but we try to protect ourselves every time. So when you start out with something, you find out, okay, there's multiple owners, which means there's probably a missing probate. That's a problem. Some of these folks are kind of deadbeats, and one of them got sued by, I don't know, Capital One, and he's got a $4,000 judgment against him. You start to see these problems, and you just have to outline them all and say, how do I solve each one? The creditor, the $4,000 judgment, go offer him $500 to the creditor. I don't tell him what's attached to real estate. I just tell them I'm a debt buyer. You have an 8-year-old debt. I'll give you $500 for it. Once I buy the debt, I'll self-release it. Then you've got to go in and do affidavit of heirships or probates for these people to close that break in the title chain. But ultimately, there's a solve for each of these. Some of them take 18 days. Some of them might take a year, though. So it's important that I say that. But until you get to the point where you feel comfortable about it, if you get a really good attorney and tell them, no, keep digging, a lot of them will get there. You just have to push the hell out of them.
Right. Yeah. No, that makes sense. So this is obviously extremely complex, but you've mastered this, right? So you do events around this. You do some consulting. You do some coaching. You have an event coming up, if I'm not mistaken. Tell us a little bit about that.
I will. Thanks for bringing that up. But before I tell you that, what I will say is when I talk about some of this stuff, it sounds remarkably complex, but I'll tell you 2/3 of the deals I do are not that complicated. All they are multiple owners who don't get along and basically don't care about the property. And I know that sounds crazy for someone to say they don't care about a vacant, inherited $150,000 house, but one of my friends here is a musician. He loves music like it's in his blood. I'm cool with music, but I don't really care that much. If you can believe it, people are the same about money. Some people don't care about money at all. And that's okay, because I do, and I'll solve that problem, make a lot of money. So that's why it's actually more common than you would think to have 3 owners who just don't get along and you buy them individually. You do an affidavit of ownership, and that's it. That's literally it. Pay a little bit of taxes and you're done. That's 2/3, maybe, I bet that's 2/3 of our deals. The ones I'm telling you about are the fun, crazy ones. So I don't want people to be intimidated. Dude, I know people that are wholesaling and just start working on some of these, and like 6 months later, they abandon their business model and go do this. They're like, oh my God, I'm just going to do the low-hanging fruit instead of the mega complicated ones. In a couple years, you'll figure it out and get there. Like we've got a $6 million deal I just bought, our contracted for $2.1 million. I mean, there's smoking deals out there, but you need some time. Preserve your capital, get there. It's okay. But yeah, event is a full day training the last day in January. This is not an event where there's 8 different speakers and everyone's pitching their own thing. This is all my business partners, and we each take a different segment of the business. And it's I'm not going to say it's an event. That's a bad use of the word that I chose. It is a training. It is a full day training. It's, I don't know, the same cost as 2 nights out in the town.
Yeah. Like, is that 2 nights in Texas or Miami? Because that's the different.
Depends on how hard you go out. Not Miami. But a lot of times people say, oh my gosh, it's $550. And I say, look, $550, you're not going to know where it went in a year. But if you come here and learn how to do one deal, or just improve a deal you're doing by 30 grand because you learn how to trade somebody down in your standard line of work, burn that $500 and get your ass over to see me.
100%. Aside from that, how can people get in touch with you, follow you, get more from you, get more content?
If you'll go to loganfullmer.com, I've got a ton of stuff on my website. Same name goes into the social media platforms. I'm all over those.
So one thing I always ask everybody at the end of the show, and I'm going to ask you, and it's everybody's version of this is different. We call the show Waking Up to Wealth, and it's because I come from not from money, and a lot of us have been programmed about money the wrong way. Like you said, I'm one of the ones that does care about money, and I 100% agree with you. There's people that don't, and that's okay. That's their thing. But Waking Up to Wealth, the premise behind the show was to bring people on the show like you that show people different ways to make money and ultimately become wealthy. So that's why I called it Waking Up to Wealth, because I want them to have an awakening to money, because a lot of us have been programmed wrong. So I want to ask you, like I ask everybody else, whatever your version is, what does waking up to wealth mean to you?
We don't have enough time to get that deep, but what I will tell you is my dad was a CPA with a drinking problem, and he had a hard time keeping a roof over our head. I got off the bus in middle school while the sheriff was moving our stuff out of our seller finance home after it had been foreclosed onto the yard, and we moved in with our neighbor. Just like a guy told me not long ago, he goes, I thought you grew up in Highland Park and went to SMU. And I'm like, don't let this nice sweater and collar fool you, dude. That ain't where I came from. But there was this time when that happened and things like that in my early life, I was like, this cannot happen anymore. I'm not going to let it happen. And there's this 10-year, 15-year journey through my teens and 20s of trying to become enlightened to it. And I did get sober, did get clean. That was more important than anything. And when I started earning, something changed. I had money in my pocket above what it took to pay my bills, and I thought, how do I make this money work? When I started to search for that answer, that's when everything changed.
Awesome. Well, listen, I appreciate you coming on, spending time with us today. I'm going to follow up with you because I really want to learn how you do it. I would suggest everybody that's paying attention to this, because I see the deals you're posting and, you know, you're willing to go after some of the harder shit that people aren't. To your point, you said some of the deals are nowhere near as hard as people think. You just have you were willing to go out and figure it out and find a different strategy, which is what I love about real estate. There's so many different ways that it can make you wealthy and make you money. So I want to say thank you so much for coming on the show today. Everybody check him out, follow him. If you can attend his event, I would suggest to do it. I'm going to see schedule wise if I can do it. And I'm excited to learn more from you. And I'm greatly appreciative that you spent time with my audience today. Thank you.
I appreciate the invite so much.